Folks, we're getting ready to get set up here and do another Relate Well with Dr. Rick. And I am so excited about being here during this live with you. If you're listening in and you want to be a part, please feel free to ask a question. Feel free to ask a question or just even make a statement. I'll be monitoring my Facebook here as well as Instagram. So we're going to talk about marriage during the holidays. That's right, marriage during the holidays. Holidays put a lot of stress on families. Yeah, probably because of the commercialization of the holidays, and there's so much stuff people are doing to try and get ready for this and get ready for that. But let's be honest, a lot of people enter into the holiday season with a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, fears, resentments, feeling very, very much alone. And it doesn't have to be. One of the things that we do in our Relate Well work is we really, really seek to help couples have the healthiest, most mature, loving, caring relationship, marriage possible. It takes two to make an us, as we say in our work, and one to kill it. Two to make it, one to kill it. And us wins, you both win. When us loses, you both lose. And if you're not sure what I'm talking about, the us is the relationship itself. We say in our world, the most important part of marriage is us. Every decision you make in your relationship gives to you or it gives to us. There is really no other option. But when you give to yourself at the expense of us, you will feel the absence of that connection, that bond, that intimacy, what we call us. And so one thing I've learned in my journey, professionally and personally, coming from a broken home, I didn't know how to make an us. I didn't know what it meant to have an us. And I didn't know the skills or tools to make it happen. And that's what we do in Relate Well. We teach people how. That's why I always tell people, you don't have to struggle. You don't know what to do, different. And if you don't know what you don't know, you can't create something that you want. Because if you're just doing what you know to do and it's not working, doing more of the same doesn't create a different outcome. And so one of the things we're going to talk about today are what are some things you can do during the holidays if your marriage is struggling, if you're finding yourself in a place where you feel detached and alone. You have hopes for an us, you have hopes for healing, you have hopes for restoration, hopes for reconciling. What are some things that you can do during this time that can make that will make a difference, that can make a difference? And that's what I love about our work is we tell people we're going to teach you what to do different so that when you put the difference into practice, you can make a difference. That makes a difference. You see, I've come to realize in my own journey, I've been married 38 years this coming February 2022. And I have lived by the things that I teach most of my marriage. I probably learned them in the first 9 years of my marriage when I started getting serious about turning things around. And I went and sought the best practices, mentored by some really great people, some at the national level, and learn from them, but also had to learn about myself and what I needed to do different. So then, how are you going to help your marriage along so that you can have a healthy relationship through the holidays? All right, we're going to give you some principles. Are you ready? If you're taking notes, here you go. Number one, remember this. You control your mouth. You control your thoughts and you control your actions. No one else does. Those things are in, as they always say, that old cliche, that's in your wheelhouse. That's something you decide. You decide to react or you decide to respond. You decide to allow yourself to be triggered and react in an unhealthy, immature way, or you decide when you're triggered to respond in a mature way. You decide whether you're going to take the high road, even if your partner does not. You decide whether you're respond with goodwill and respect or ill will and disrespect. One of the things that we do and that we believe strongly in Relate Well is centered around four principles of living. And when I say those four principles of living, I'm talking about this is a way of being. You're going to develop yourself to be this kind of a person. What are those four principles? We call them the four protectors of an us. One of the things I always try to regulate my life by is goodwill, respect, humility, and empathy. In other words, is the way that I'm treating you right now, is it goodwill? Or am I treating you with ill will, seeking to hurt you and harm you, put you down, invalidate you, because I've been hurt? You see, whenever you treat someone with ill will, if you sow discord, you attract discord. If you sow discord, you reap discord. The law of attraction, the law of sowing and reaping. The second thing I would encourage you to do is not only ask yourself, are you treating your partner with goodwill? Are you being respectful? Respectful is honoring and valuing another person. Whenever you honor and value another person, you says that they matter, that they have value. You see, some people have asked me in the past, well, hey, Doc, why would I treat someone with goodwill and respect when they don't treat me with goodwill and respect? Fair question. Here's my answer. Are you listening? Tune in. My answer to that is this. I treat people with goodwill and respect, even if they don't treat me with goodwill and respect, not because of them. I don't treat them that way, goodwill and respect, because of them, whether they're deserving or not. I treat people with goodwill and respect because that's the person that I want to be. This is how I've decided to be. I don't let people dictate who I'm going to be. I control that. That's in my wheelhouse. And so the first two words are you treating your partner with goodwill and respect? And third, is it caring, empathy? Are you caring about how they think, caring about how they feel? Remember, you can care how a person thinks and feels. That doesn't necessarily mean that you agree with them. Agreement's a very, very different conversation. And lastly, you can't do any of that without humility. Humility is the path to living a mature life. And research shows humble people are emotionally mature. Humble people are not easily triggered. Humble people do not tend to escalate to other people's stuff. Humble people know when to walk away. Humble people know when to talk and when not to talk. There's an old proverb that says, a fool appears wise. Get that? A fool appears wise when he keeps his mouth shut. See, this old fool back in the early years of my marriage, I had a belief that if I thought it or felt it, it needed to be shared. What I actually found out was that's pretty immature. It was pretty childish for me to even think that and do that. What I found out was maturity tells you when to talk and when not to talk. And ask yourself this, are the things that you're doing, the way that you're living in your relationship during the holidays, are you bringing peace to a relationship or you bring angst to the relationship? And it's like my mentor said to me, Dr. Lori Gordon, many years ago, Rick, everything you do, you're either a source of pleasure or you're a source of pain. You bring pain into the world's life or you bring pleasure into her life. How do you want to be as a way of being? That was a great question, because I realized that I'm probably more painful than I am pleasurable at times. And I need to shift that. Goodwill, respect, humility, and empathy allowed me to do that, you see. And ask yourself, if I say what I want to say, is it worth it? What will the outcome be? Is that the outcome that you want? Those are questions humble people ask themselves. And I had another mentor teacher give me a phrase a long time ago in my own transformation journey. And it was this: when in doubt, keep it out. Isn't that cool? When in doubt, keep it out. Not everything you want to say should be said. And if you doubt that you should say it, you might want to trust the doubt. So number one, you control your thoughts, you control your mouth, you control your reactions. You can regulate all that through maturity. So first thing you do is don't allow yourself to get triggered. And when you are triggered into an emotional reaction, you control what you do with it, no one else. Number two thing that you can do during the holidays to help you in your marriage is be good to yourself. Be kind to yourself. Take a long bath if you need to. Go read a good book. Go watch a World War II documentary. It's what I do. All right. Now go History Channel. Watch something there. All right. Be good to yourself. You can't love another person well if you don't love yourself. You can't love another person well if you don't respect yourself. You can't love another person well if you don't have grace for yourself. You can't love another person well if you don't have self-compassion. And the way to love someone well is to love yourself, not in an arrogant or haughty way, but in a humble way. So be good to yourself. And by the way, why don't you forgive yourself if you mess up? You messed up. Okay, give yourself grace, learn from it, move on. Move on. Because when you're good to yourself, you tend to be good to others. When you respect yourself, you tend to respect others. When you offer yourself compassion, you tend to give other people compassion. Be good to yourself. Number 3, and this is really important if your marriage is really struggling. So listen in, all right? Kind of lean into this one. If your marriage is really struggling through the holidays, what about giving yourself permission? Listen to how I'm saying this. What about giving yourself permission to think objectively about your marriage? In other words, when we're in anger and hurt and pain, we tend to see it subjectively. I always like to say it this way in my work. We tend to look at the world through the prism of our pain. Our pain colors what we see. But if you're able to step back, kind of step back, put the emotions over here for a minute. Not that I'm negating or living in denial. That wouldn't be a healthy thing to do. But step out here and look objectively. Here's some questions for you. Is there anything good in your marriage? I mean, anything? Think about it. Do you still love this person on any level to any degree? Do you believe they love you on any level to any degree? Is it that maybe you're going through a time and a part of your journey, but it's possible that when you get through this journey, the marriage is going to be deeper and stronger, and the friendship is stronger, more intimate when you get through it? That's what I found. But you've got to stay objective. You've got to be willing to look at it objectively, not just through the prism of your pain. That doesn't mean I deny my pain, deny my hurt, deny my thoughts or my feelings. What it does mean, though, that I move to maturity and assess the relationship from back here. And I ask myself, is it really this bad? Is it really this destructive? Is it a possibility that we could both change and maybe on some level are both changing? Just maybe not the speed that I would like you to change. But are you changing at all? Is he or she changing at all? Do you see them making any strides? Is it better than it was 5 years ago than it was 1 year ago? And if you can answer yes to those things, then you ask yourself, well, then if there's a positives in there, because when you think objectively, you'll find the positives. Are those positive things worth fighting for? And here's another one. This is an important one for this point on think objectively about your marriage. Think objectively about yourself. Ask yourself this question. Do you, on any level, to any degree, still love your spouse? Did you get that question? Do you, on any level, to any degree, do you still love your spouse? Because if you can say yes, then you can ask yourself this question. Is the love that I have still in me? worth fighting for. If you don't know what to do, well, give us a call. We'll show you through the relatable process or one of our marriage intensives that we do. We do a lot of intensive getting people unstuck and moving forward. We teach them what to do different so they can create a difference. Now, once you learn what to do different, it is your responsibility to use the things you learn. No one can make you do that. I can show you how to fish, but in the end, you got to get out there and fish, right? It's like my mentors taught me. You know what to do. Either you do it or you don't. No complaints. That was rubber meet the road kind of thinking, but it was true. And I valued my transformation so much, I used the things I was taught regularly to where they became a habit, a way of being. Think objectively about your marriage. And remember, that doesn't mean we're living in denial, that we're living in such a way that we're not going to deal with problems. Of course you deal with problems, but you deal with problems from an objective worldview rather than through the prism of your pain and anger and hurt and fear. Number 4, as you work through the holidays, remember this: stay focused on the present. Stay focused on what is. That is a mental game, folks. I know. Sometimes I still battle those thoughts in my head, but what about when this happened or that happened? Stay in the present. It's a mental game. It gets easier over time, but live fully in the present. Live in what is. And put those things in the past on a shelf, because sometimes the things we're still struggling about aren't true anymore in the present. But we live in fear as if they are. But in reality, in the present, they're not. One of the greatest gifts you can give yourself is live fully in the present, outside of yourself, not in your head, watching life, judging and criticizing it. No, the most powerful way to live life is to live life out here and deal with what's happening in a moment. That's a challenge. And if you don't know how, we'll show you. But you've got to learn to live in the moment and in the present. It might be that what you see happening in front of you isn't what you think it is. Just because you feel something is, in reality, it may not be. Just because you feel something is real doesn't mean in reality it is real. Just because you feel stupid doesn't mean you are stupid. Just because you feel your partner doesn't love you doesn't mean they don't love you. Living in the present allows you to move into objectivity. Because to do that, you have to access the prefrontal cortex of your brain, which is the here and now part of the brain. And that's a more powerful way to live life, is in the here and now, the present. Number five. So you got conflict. You're moving to the holidays. Stressors can make things a little bit more challenging, And you have children. Is it possible that you could live in such a way that you have decided as a couple that we are going to make the holidays a safe and pleasant environment for the children? For the children. Why allow your differences to destroy the whole? Why allow your differences to affect the kids? If you got to deal with things, go deal with them in the bedroom away from them. But make a decision that when we are in front of the children, we will have goodwill and respect and humility and empathy with each other. Why? For the kids' sake, at least right now. Why would you want to create a negative environment for the children during the holidays? Santa's coming, folks. Do you want your kids to be more worried about what mom and dad are doing than the anticipation of Santa? For those of us who are Christians, it's the birth of Jesus. What do the angels say? Goodwill, and peace to all men. Goodwill and peace. Could it be that we could live with goodwill and peace with each other for the sake of our kids? It's not to live in denial, but it is to say, you know what? We value our children enough. We value the family enough to live differently, particularly during this time. You think about it, this period of time in society, there's always an element of, joy in culture. You go to stores, you hear Christmas music, you see lights, you see trees, right? You see the pictures of baby Jesus. Everyone knows this is a very particular, hang on, folks. My light went out over here. I got this light timer I've not been able to undo yet from our Relate Well Center. So if I don't move around a lot, it thinks there's nobody in here and it turns off. So I apologize about that. So culture, this time of holiday, there's like a feeling of joy and anticipation in the air. What if we made a decision to keep that at home as well? So my fifth point is make your home safe and pleasant for your kids. And by the way, do you understand, if you guys decide to live in such a way to make it a safe place for your children, do you also understand, in so doing, you're making it a safe place for both of you? You're making it a safe place for both of you. Number 6, be grateful. Be grateful, folks. Listen, we can always find the negative, but what we don't do when we're in pain and hurt, we don't look for the things that we appreciate. We don't look for things that we should be grateful for. You can always find something to be grateful for. It is a core piece of what we do and Relate Well. It is a core piece of my life. To live a life of gratitude. The brain research on gratitude is actually powerful. The brain research on gratitude is such that research on the brain around gratitude is when you live a life of gratitude, or in the moment you're experiencing gratitude, your brain can't feel fear and anger. What if we gave ourselves permissions to be grateful? Grateful that person's still in your life. Grateful you still love them. Grateful that they still love you. Grateful they still do things for you. Grateful that you do things for them. Grateful that you can still breathe and talk and you have something to share. Grateful for your kids. You see, if you step back and live a life objectively, one of our points, you can find the things to be grateful for. It's in our subjectivity around anger and pain. It's harder to find the things to be grateful for. To live a life of gratitude is to live in the present. To live a life of gratitude is to live in such a way. It is to live in such a way that says, I am not going to be bound up by anger and pain only. I am going to intentionally be grateful. And you look for the things to be grateful for, and you dwell on those things. That's not to live in denial. So don't go say, hey, Doc Rick thinks you shouldn't deal with problems. I've never said that. What I have learned in my own transformation is, though we may have issues, I can own the issues and still live a life of gratitude at the same time. That's a gift I give myself. That's a gift I give my marriage. That's a gift I give what we call us. Live a life of gratitude. And lastly, the 7th thing you can do is during the holidays, minimize conflict. Minimize conflict. Now, I would say if you do the previous 6 things, you're going to minimize conflict. But to minimize conflict, you've got to be able to communicate well. You've got to be able to listen well. You got to spend more time listening and less time talking. We have a saying in Relate Well. It goes like this: love listens, self talks. It is a greater gift to a relationship, as my mentor taught me. It is a greater gift to listen. She also taught me this, which she's absolutely right about, I found through experience. I was complaining many years ago about something with Luella. And Dr. Gordon said to me, do you want to know why you can't resolve that issue? And I said, I would love to know. And listen to what she said to me. She said, Rick, you can't resolve it because there's something about that issue for Luella that you have not learned yet. There's something unknown to you about that issue. But if you listened more and asked more questions, you would learn the thing you don't know. And once you learn the thing you don't know about that issue For her, you will get unstuck and you could have movement. I thought, that's interesting. I worked for Lori at the time. We were on a trip where we were doing some training. So I went home, pulled out our communication skill, the big kahuna skill. And I said, I want to talk about this, but I want you to use the skill. I will listen. And as I listened and asked questions, she said something I had not heard before. And when she said the piece I had not heard, I went, I didn't know that piece. And that was a piece that I needed to know in order to get unstuck. It only came through listening. Listening can minimize conflict, you see. Listen more, talk less. Empathize more. Listen, you don't have to agree with how your partner thinks and feels, but it is their perspective. Perspectives are just perspectives. What happens in relationships are when one person argues their perspective is right and the other perspective is wrong. You understand there's only one reality and different perspectives of one reality. But what happens is people aren't willing to put their perspectives together to create understanding. What they want to do is argue that my perspective is right and your perspective is wrong. Okay, you won't have a relationship because relationships don't happen in agreement. You listen and you seek understanding. Understanding is what creates relationships. Sadly, we Americans, we don't value relationships anymore. We tend to value right and wrong, agreement, forcing agreement. So one can win and the other would lose. Interesting. Healthy, mature people would rather have a relationship and agree to disagree. Do you know what percentage of problems in a marriage are unsolvable? Unsolvable. No solution. John Gottman, one of the greatest researchers on marriage to date, calls these unsolvable problems. His term is perpetual problems. They're just perpetual. They're just ongoing, and they're not going to change. 68, listen to this, 68% of problems in a marriage are perpetual. They're unsolvable. They have no solution. What you need is to understand that it's an unsolvable problem. Now, what are unsolvable problems? Unsolvable problems are problems around beliefs, around religion, around way you were raised, all right? Around perspective of something. You got it? Your different tastes and desires, personal differences, personality differences can create unsolvable problems for you. But here's what research shows around masterful couples. Masterful couples do not let the unsolvable / perpetual problems destroy us. They would rather have us and agree to disagree, or they just keep navigating around that perpetual problem. Why? Because they'd rather have the relationship and not let winning an argument that can't be won to destroy the relationship. Immature people want to fight. They want to win. Manage conflict by minimizing it. And when you minimize conflict in the home, you have a lot more peace, a lot more love, a lot more goodwill, a lot more respect, a lot more empathy. All of that comes about. Now, if we choose to live this way, I personally believe you may have a hurting marriage, but you'll have a pleasant home, a pleasant life during the holidays. And you might just find by doing these things intentionally, you just might find your marriage starts to heal. Your relationship starts to reconnect. You start to feel hope again. You start to feel love for your partner. You start to feel desire for your partner because you have lived in an intentional way for the holidays. Now, let's think about this. If we do this intentionally for the holidays, don't you think all this would work 24/7, 365, the rest of your life? The answer is yes. The answer is yes. You would live a healthy, loving, mature, caring friendship, marriage that is deep in intimacy. That's the connection and the bond that would have passion, That's the romantic, erotic side. And the commitment would be sustainable till death do you part. This is Dr. Rick with another Relate Well with Dr. Rick Marks. Have a great day, everybody.